Welcome everyone to episode 55 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I am your host, custom made from head to toe, the boss and the best, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, someone who's so mean as a kid his parents had to feed him with a slingshot, Kyle Hogan.
Who said that and about who?
Bobby Heenan said it. And
I figured that.
It was maybe about Vampiro, I think, or I forget. It was, or actually, no, it was Bryan Adams, I believe.
I'll take. Hey, anybody that uses the tilt-a-whirl as a finishing move, I take that as a compliment. What's going on, everybody?
How's it going? How are you doing today?
Oh, I mean, peeling behind the curtain. We usually record around 9 o'clock. It took us about an extra 20 minutes because we had some extracurriculars that we're doing because we feel like we're 19 years old again playing video games. But hopefully that doesn't equal the death of this podcast. But having a good time. I actually watched this show probably 3 days ago. I was bored while I was in Vermont and I couldn't sleep, so I actually watched this episode while I was out there for a wedding. Jotted down some notes. So I had to watch it one more time today just to kind of get it freshly in, because a lot of times I'll watch it like a day before or the day of that we record, just so everything is kind of fresh and easier to have a conversation about. So we'll see how much of this sticks.
So it is, of course, Thunder 55. It is March 18th, 1999, and we are live from Lexington, Kentucky. And, of course, we got Tony Schiavone, Bobby Heenan, and Mike Tenay here. And we find out that they're recapping the Nitro main event. Of course, Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan in tag team action against Goldberg and the world champion Ric Flair, Kyle. So looks like something happened at Uncensored. Ric Flair may have worn a dress, but he did win the world title.
That match is probably one of the most, I'm not saying it's up there with, Warrior Hogan, but it is such a convoluted it was supposed to be a First Blood match, right? In a cage, which, by the way, didn't even know it was a First Blood until you actually watched the show.
Yeah, until you're watching the show, yeah.
And then, I don't know, it was and then Ric Flair, I guess, bladed when he wasn't supposed to. So because of that, he started bleeding. And then he basically told Charles Robinson, because he's supposed to win the match, ultimately, anyways. And instead, he basically just made Charles Robinson look like a dick because he wasn't, he used his discretion to not, stop the match. And then I feel like a lot of that might have actually resulted in the Ric Flair that we now have. Do you feel like that Ric Flair, and I'm sure we'll talk about it as we go here, but I know they kind of hint with Nitro that he was tagging with Goldberg, and then Ric Flair just kind of abandons him and just leaves him for dead for Hogan and Nash. And even Tony, who's usually the guy who's always for the faces, is well, he's the world champ, he's the president, he could do whatever he wants, and all three of them are trying to go for the title, so maybe it was in his best interest. And Tenay was the only guy in the booth was making any kind of sense. No, you're not supposed to do that to your tag partner. You can't just fucking leave him. And we've been dealing with the fact that the Nature Boy has been a face, and I think you and I could probably agree that Ric Flair is a much better heel than he ever was a face. He's cool he's okay as a face.
I'm pretty sure everyone can agree with that.
Right,
for sure.
I mean, he just plays the part better. But I think because of the screw up, now we're getting this really, I would say, pretty sharp shift in the tone of Ric Flair, where all of a sudden he's kind of acting like a dick.
Yeah, it is pretty weird. Of course, we'll get more into that as the night goes on. But like you said, the commentary team does discuss, him walking out on Goldberg, and as you said, Tenay, the only one who seems to be the voice of reason here. We then move into our opening bout of the night: Kenny Kaos and Bobby Duncombe Jr. So,
was not looking forward to this match in the slightest.
I gotta admit, this feels like pre-taped Thunder all over. When you've got this kind of, matchup right here. Quick side note, I don't know if you knew this. I heard this on a podcast recently. High Voltage. Of course, there's a story out there that Matt Hardy said the High Voltage name was stolen from him. He submitted something to, the power plant at some point, and apparently it was Canyon who said he overheard the conversation and said, yeah, they said, oh, High Voltage? Yeah, we're going to take that. So
was that from 83 Weeks? Because I recall that as well.
Yeah, I believe it was 83 Weeks when they discussed that. So as for this match, though, commentary team were actually talking about this match a lot, which surprised me because this is a prime opportunity to continue your discussion on Ric Flair and Hogan.
Don't get me
and
wrong,
all
they
that.
did do that.
They did, but not as much as I expected. As for the match itself, I don't know what to say about this match. Bobby Duncombe Jr. is going to win this match with the old skull crushing finale.
How shocked were you, first of all, that he won the match cleanly?
I was very shocked that he won cleanly. I don't know if I thought Kenny Kaos deserved to win it, but I really wasn't expecting Bobby Duncombe Jr. to win either, so I don't know. I gave the match a 1 3/4. I probably could have given it 2 stars because it was fine for what it was, but I just really didn't enjoy anything about the match.
And that, you know what, I could go with that. I did give it 2 stars because I really didn't have anything bad to say about the match. Except for the fact that the crowd was very disinterested. I think Kenny was trying. By the way, that's Kaos. We're on first name basis. Kaos was trying to get the crowd going, and I feel like maybe that's why Bobby Duncombe Jr. went over because Kaos has the look of who could look like a decent wrestler. Obviously he's kind of a guy
that typical power plant look for sure.
Right. He's just a guy that he had the it factor of the look of a wrestler, and then they decided not to develop his character or his charisma and just threw him out into a tag team. But the crowd was not. They weren't having it. They had no interest in Kenny winning, and so when I saw Bobby Duncombe Jr. win, it kind of disappointed me because I felt like they were kind of pushing Kaos to. By the way they were describing him, he should win. He has, I think overall he has a better, reputation in WCW. Now they said that Duncombe's been wrestling for a long time and all that stuff, but it's kind of like that former television champion curse. They talked about how Kaos is a former tag champion, and he's tasted gold with Rick Steiner last year. So, and I don't know. I think everything the tea leaves told me that Kaos should go over on this match. Also considering the fact of how much Bobby Duncombe Jr. just got absolutely waffled in the tag team tournament. And we talked about that in decent, So it felt like a guy that normally wins taking on a guy who has just been completely smashed in against anybody that he's been wrestling against. So I was very surprised. Like I said, I was surprised that Duncan went over clean. But yeah, it looks like Kenny Kaos might be going into the wrath bin.
Yikes. After this, we get our first replay of the night, and it's from Nitro, Horace, and Vince arguing about who Hollywood made the leader of the NWO Black and White. Horace told Vince to go talk to Hulk and see what happens. Stevie Ray then comes in here arguing with Horace about the same thing. Stevie Ray's then going to lay out Horace. Stevie Ray then sees Disco Inferno and tells him to go talk to Hollywood. Horace says he wants that turkey Stevie Ray. So then they cut to a match of Stevie Ray and Horace, but Vince comes out on the ropes with a chair. Stevie Ray's going to whip Horace into that chair and gets the win. So Stevie Ray winning that match on Nitro, as all of them are arguing over who is the leader of the NWO Black and White. But didn't we have a stipulation that Vince and Stevie Ray were wrestling for leadership of the NWO Black and White the night before?
Yeah.
And Stevie Ray won?
Yeah, and he won, and then they had this Nitro recap as if that match never, ever happened. But it happened. I watched Uncensored. It was a real match that Stevie Ray won. So I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on. This is so confusing to me.
It really is. It's also one of the least exciting storylines in the world. So for it to continue to go on, this is like approaching Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner feud of just something I don't give a shit about that will not die. After this, we get Mean Gene. He's at the entrance, and out comes Curt Hennig, who's going to challenge Ric Flair for the world title tonight on Thunder, Kyle. The crowd booing Curt heavy, and he's going to play the heel here strong and tells Ric Flair if he doesn't hear from you and doesn't hear from him in 15 minutes, he has his answer, which I don't know if that answer means yes or no, because I didn't get that answer.
I feel like that wasn't a strong way to end his promo.
No, not at all.
If you don't answer in 15 minutes, well, then I guess that's that. Like, okay, cool.
We then move into our next match. El Vampiro, who, of course, is going to drop the L, I think, at some point, making his Thunder debut and apparently re-debut from WCW. Apparently, he showed up 6 months ago, I'm guessing on Nitro. But
we would have recognized him if he was on Thunder.
Oh, he wasn't on Thunder, yeah, for sure. And he's going to be wrestling former television champion Prince Iaukea, who Tony left no doubt about the former television champ on this one, unlike the last time we saw Prince
he wasn't
wrestle.
even in the ring before he said it.
The match starts out okay, and then the crowd starts reacting. They're looking at the entrance. And we turn and we look, and here comes someone who makes even Marilyn Manson go, ooh, man, he's freaky. As we've got Saturn wearing the getup that he wore at Uncensored, which is sort of like a chainmail dress. He's got some wild facial hair, some makeup, and
a very ominous red light beaming down from him.
So he's trying to out-creep Vampiro, apparently. We're gonna get Vampiro is going to use the nail in the coffin finisher, which is sort of like a Michinoku driver of sorts. That's gonna give him a 3. I gave the match 2 stars. I thought it was fine for a squash match enhancement for Vampiro, but that was about it.
Yeah, same thing, 2 stars. Had some good spots, some weird chemistry between the two. I felt like the beginning of the match, I don't think either one of them kind of had an idea of what. Like the structure of how they wanted the match to go. I'm sure probably a lot of it had to do with the fact that there was going to be a Saturn moment of the match where he was just going to like talk shit, and apparently Vampiro was supposed to every once in a while stop and acknowledge that he's there, which is all that really does is kind of break up any type of flow that a match could have, and it just seemed like what a weird time for Saturn to be like, hey, this guy has some shitty tattoo work on his chest. I think I'll feud with him now. Like. That's all I got out of that. It just, like I said, it seemed forced and random. However, I did like Vampiro's offense when it finally did take off. I think he had like a cool, kind of like a crucifix. Like, I guess you kind of consider it like, the best way I could put it is like an outsider's edge, but he's like fucking throws them instead of drops them down. He kind of just launches them. Almost like when Sheamus used to use the move. He used to like kind of like do like a running throw of that move.
Yeah.
So that's, like I said, I've remembered Vampiro. He never really did anything for me, but I do remember that some of his offense was, at the very least, unique and somewhat eye-catching.
Yeah, Vampiro does have like an interesting look about him, but I don't know. We'll see where it goes from here. After this, we get an NWO promo. It's Horace and Bryan Adams. They're chatting. It opens up with Horace actually smelling his boot. And then, of course, Bryan Adams says, I can't believe those other jabronis, basically think they're the leader when I'm the leader of the Black and White. And soon I'm going to be the leader of the Wolf Pack. So Bryan Adams really shooting for the moon.
Bold move.
Horace then's going to attack him and says that he's the leader. So, again, we're having this feud.
Which was a bummer because I thought they were buddies. I thought, like, if anybody, like Horace and Bryan Adams were at least, like, in the tag tournament together, they seemed like they were kind of, like, in sync with each other. But no, I mean, that's how bad the dissension has gotten. And Scott Norton is just, like, sitting there just chilling.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of forget Scott Norton's even part of this group. I think he's trying to make us forget, too. We then get our Saturday night promo. We find Disco Inferno is going to be there. Bam Bam Bigelow, Rick Steiner, Booker T versus the Cat for the TV title. And Curt Hennig and Barry Windham will be in trying to regain the tag team championships from Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko. So, Kyle, you astutely pointed out, apparently Hennig's not going to be world champion after tonight's match.
I'm just surprised there's going to be two. There's going to be two title matches on Saturday night. Who wants to bet that any title changes on Saturday night?
I would love to see it once in a while, but I don't think it's going to ever happen. At least not in 1999. After this, we go to back in the ring. It's Mean Gene. Out comes Ric Flair, your world champion. He's got a suit on. He's got the big gold. He says, whether you like it or not, I'm the 14-time world heavyweight champion. And then he starts calling some fan in the front row, fat boy. It's a guy with a Hogan sign. So I'm like, okay, it's slightly heelish, but, the guy's got a Hogan sign, so maybe he deserves it. Says that he is president for life. And he said, then he starts saying, I'm a Florida, by God, fighting Gator. Then starts cutting a heel promo on Kentucky.
How many states is Flair from?
It is kind of amazing, right?
He's from Minnesota. He's billed to be from North Carolina, but yet he's also a Florida goddamn fighting Gator or whatever he said.
Whatever he needs to be.
It's whatever he needs to do in order to draw the heat, apparently.
Yeah. He then, of course, he said he's tired of basically sucking up to the crowd. He talks about how he's got his custom suits. He then tells some guy he's going to take his girlfriend home, give her a ride on Space Mountain. And then he brings up Scott Hall and says that he's stripping Scott Hall of the United States title for no showing. And Kyle, the title, we're going to decide who the new U.S. champion is with a tournament, WCW style.
That's great, because the last WCW style tournament was so good. It was so good, guys.
Oh, God, I was just...
First of all, why is it that Scott Hall misses one match and he gets stripped, yet when Bret Hart doesn't defend the U.S. title for 2 straight months, he's allowed to keep the title? Or when Hogan doesn't defend the world title for 4 straight pay-per-views, he's okay to keep the title? Like, I get it. It's story. I'm too stuck in the reality of it all. I'm sure there's a real reason why Scott Hall is not on TV right now. I think he's back in rehab again, if I recall, I think he actually might have hurt like his knee or ankle. I believe either. I actually think it was more of a legitimate injury that's having him off TV for now. I just find it funny that, he didn't defend the title once at a pay-per-view and he's been stripped. And I'm okay with that being the rule if it wasn't for the fact that we have the history of WCW.
Of what it's been. Yeah.
Of what it's been the past.
The world title was defended 6 times last year at a pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't mesh well with reality. But, tell a story, Rick.
We do find out, though, Kyle, that, like I said, the tournament starts tonight on Thunder, so we're in for a treat. And no better way to kick off the United States title than with 2 signature wrestlers in Bam Bam Bigelow and Meng.
I'm okay with it. Neither one of them is going to win the U.S. title, but okay.
Well, when I heard it, I go, okay, maybe they're going to give Bam Bam a nice push for this U.S. title. So I'm excited to see where it goes from here. We do find, of course, it's going to culminate at Spring Stampede. This is going to, of course, bring out Curt Hennig. He's going to get in Rick's face. Rick tells him he's going to, if he lays a hand on him, he's going to fire him. He says he has respect for his wrestling ability. And then he tells Curt that, if Curt's ever going to, wrestle him, he's got to have a warm-up match. He's got to get through Hollywood Hogan. So our main event tonight now is Curt Hennig and Hollywood Hogan in singles action.
What would you have rather wanted to see? I mean, I understand, like, from a pure wrestling perspective, I'd probably say Flair versus Hennig.
Right.
But for the fact that I think this might be the first time we'll ever have seen or ever will see Hogan wrestle in a main event on Thunder, I was pretty fucking stoked.
I think we have had Hogan wrestle once, maybe twice before, but it was in tag team action. So I think this is like, getting Hogan in singles action, main eventing Thunder, like, fucking bring it on.
Yeah, and we had Flair last week, so
yeah.
I'm fine with this. I was totally fine with it being not for the title and being Hogan instead.
What I'm not fine with is this weird Flair heel turn. I don't get it. I don't get where this is coming from.
Which was why I wanted to stress at the beginning that, like, I think there was a reasoning for it because of how bad uncensored kind of end up being. It's like you can't like it's almost like it's so bad and the way it ended was so bullshit that you almost have to be like, hey, the only way we can explain this is that basically Ric Flair is using Charles Robinson and kind of cheated his way to his title, and there's no way that a face can do that. So I guess Hogan's gonna, start acting more like, put the hand near the ear, brother, and Flair is gonna go back to doing what he does best. Like I have no problem with it. It's just such a abandonment of what they've been doing. And we'll talk more about Hogan later too, but I mean, you'll see that Hogan's mannerisms are totally different too.
They did. It's like they're trying to flip flop it, but it's really weird how they went about flip flopping it.
Well, first of all, the reason why it's weird is because nobody else is really explaining it or getting down to what really happened on. Like, really, if you think about it, you don't really know what happened on Uncensored unless you saw it. They don't really speak too much about it.
But they don't even if you watched it, you don't really understand what happened.
Well, I mean, I think the only thing we know is that obviously Charles Robinson just didn't. It's either that it's a weird thing. Like, was Charles Robinson at first trying to be a face ref by trying to help Flair, or you know what I mean? But now because of everything got fucked up because of the fact that Flair kind of bled prematurely or bled at all, let's be honest, in a first blood match, that it just makes it look like, the integrity of the match just got completely thrown out, and Flair won because of some nefarious, back dealing of, paying off the ref, where if they were supposed to be doing it correctly, it probably was supposed to be more of Hogan being kind of a cheap shot, cheap chicken shit heel like he's supposed to, and Charles Robinson basically pulling one up, kind of like doing the reverse Nick Patrick. And so now he's going to be like the WCW ref and, help Flair secure the win, get the belt back for good old WCW, because obviously Hogan tarnished that belt after the finger poke of doom. So there's a lot of, there's a lot of things that could have turned this into a proper Flair face, Charles Robinson face. They both, the powers, the president and the ref were able to defeat Hulk Hogan in a cage. But because of how bad everything went during that match, now all of a sudden they're like, well, we're not going to lie to the fans. They're not that stupid. So now we have to now go forward with this fact that Flair is now blind with power. He now has Charles Robinson in his pocket, and now Hogan feels like he is rightfully, or not, I wouldn't say rightfully, but he's justifiably upset that he got the belt taken away from him.
Yeah, the whole thing's a clusterfuck, to say the least. After this, though, we get our second replay of the night. It's this past Monday on Nitro. Rey Mysterio and Kidman wrestling. Of course, we got Tenay and Shivani discussing this match as we're watching clips from it. And Rey Mysterio ends up winning, and he is your new Cruiserweight champion. So Kidman had a good long run, but he's finally over. It's Rey's turn. And that moves into our next match of the night. It's Hoovy challenging Rey Mysterio Jr. And these two put on a pretty good match here. You could tell they got a lot of chemistry here. We have I thought there was a good sequence where Rey is thrown into the corner and kind of flips over the turnbuckle, sort of like how Shawn Michaels or Ric Flair would do. But then instead of getting clothesline like Flair, they almost did a stunner move that sent Rey to the outside. We then get Rey flipping to the outside. That's when we cut to commercial because their commercial breaks are always timely. We get Hoovy with a running power bomb, pop-up face smasher that was 35 feet in the air, it felt like. Hoovy driver, but Rey's going to get his foot on the rope, and then ultimately they're both kind of hanging out on the top rope. Rey is going to hit a top rope Frankensteiner. That's going to give him the win and defense of the title. I gave the match 2.5 stars. I thought they gave it just the right amount of time. It was a fun match. You can definitely see the chemistry here between these two. And I like that it seems like Rey Mysterio Jr. always finds a different way to win the match. The Frankensteiner might be one of his finishers, but it's not his only go-to finisher.
I 100% agree. I gave it 3 stars. And I actually, one of the reasons why I gave this such a high rating is because of the time they put in this. You said it too. You thought it was the right amount of time for the match.
Perfect amount of time, yeah.
Everything about the match was there was no like chin locks, there was no leg moves. They just went for their big dick, moves. A lot of, like I said, a lot of high intensity stuff, like you said before. But I guess I'm a little confused on putting the belt on Ray, considering everything he's been doing the past month. To me, Ray, and this is not to dig the cruiserweight belt. I know that Jericho has said on different publications and his own podcast that, the cruiserweight title is fun and all. It gets you on TV. It gives you, that prestige, but you don't want to be known as a cruiserweight. You want to be known, like, if you win the belt, that's cool. But with everything he's been doing, he's had wins against Bam Bam. He's had wins against Kevin Nash. He had a win against, there was 3 guys in a row that were like, kind of bigger names, or at least guys you would think that would squash Ray. But Ray won, and you would think that he's moved on. It's kind of like Jericho moving on from the cruiserweight belt, going to the TV belt. And then I'm sure Jericho's probably going to be in this U.S. tournament, I would assume. And I thought that was going to be Ray's next big thing. But now I feel like, okay, now that they put the belt on him, and I'm not saying he's not the best cruiserweight in the company. He probably is, if not absolutely is. But I think he's over it. I think at this point he's in a point in his career where he's bigger than the belt. So let's put him in something that is more appropriate for Ray in 1999.
Right. Well, and I think he'll get there, but I'm glad they gave him something. But I think I agree that he's bigger than the cruiserweight title, but I don't think they were ready to, go that far with someone of his stature, right?
Well, I think the other problem, too, you have is that Kidman has been the champ for so long and has beaten all of the big contenders multiple times except Ray. So I get that Ray could win it, because if you look at all of the pay-per-views of Kidman's defenses and stuff, you see a couple Chavos, a couple Hoovies, I think one Psychosis. I don't think Ray has been going for has had a cruiserweight title match in a while. So him coming in and beating Kidman makes sense, because it's not like Chavo losing 3 times in a row at a pay-per-view and then the 4th time's the charm and just wins. But I don't know. It just seems like a weird shift in Ray's kind of career storyline, that he's been like this giant killer, and then now he's doing the exact opposite. Now he goes from fighting these 6'9", 6'10", 7-foot tall, large wrestlers, big time wrestlers, and making it look like, wow, he's able to beat these guys, and I'll just put him right back in with the cruiserweights. And I'm not saying that's not where he belongs, but it's not where he belongs at this point in 99.
Yeah, no, it's all fair. I know what you mean. After this, though, we get what probably should have been a main event, and would have been a main event anywhere else if Hogan wasn't, on the card tonight.
Dream match.
And that is Disco Inferno versus the Disciple. The Disciple's entrance gets screwed up on the way in. There's some production thing. He has this really slow walk up, which made me laugh. I just totally enjoyed it. And this is really, if Stone Cold Steve Austin could watch this is a clinic on how to, these are the 2 men who really innovated the Stone Cold Stunner. This is the Chartbuster versus the Apocalypse, which commentary does begin to discuss. And also we find out that Chartbuster is apparently called The Last Dance. When did they change the name of that?
I thought The Last Dance was the name of his Spike Pile driver.
Well, Tenay referred to this, I believe, as The Last Dance.
Yeah, you're right. He did. I was just as confused as you were.
Yeah. We do find out in this match, Kyle, Sting is back on QVC this Tuesday.
Selling what?
God knows what. As for the match itself, really nothing to say. It's fucking Disciple and Disco Inferno. Disciple's going to work the arm. Disco's going to avoid the Apocalypse because he knows when it's coming. Disco's then to get telegraph his finisher, which the Disciple reverses. And eventually we get a punch to the gut, and that's when Disco's going to hit the last dance, chartbuster, whatever. He gets the 3 count. It's 2 stars for a match with Disco Inferno and the Disciple. They actually had a story to tell, I guess. And it was fine, and honestly, probably one of Disciple's better matches. So 2 stars.
Hey, don't shit on Tough Tom like that. I give this 2.25. It's exactly how long I felt like watching this match, and the match was fine. I did enjoy the creativity of like, oh, this is actually going to be kind of a grudge match. It's the Chartbuster versus the Apocalypse, which is like if these guys were even just a shred bigger stars, this would actually be a decent grudge or a decent feud that would culminate at a pay-per-view. Like if it was like DDP fighting like, let's just make up something and just say like Canyon or Raven or something like that also did a move equivalent to the Diamond Cutter. This would be weeks of a storyline to see like who gets to keep the move. So, but because it's Disco and Disciple, 1 match on Thunder, that sounds about right.
It's very appropriate. After this, we go to another match that's really, I mean, a main event anywhere else. We were spoiled this week on Thunder, Kyle, and we're going to get Horace versus Bryan Adams. It doesn't get much better than that.
Hey, production even got to save money because they just looped the black and white music twice or just once, so both guys could come out.
Of course, this must be battle of the leader of the NWO, even though they had that on Sunday between 2 other people and Vince.
2 completely different people.
Bryan Adams is going to hit the tilt-a-whirl backbreaker and doesn't go for the pin. That's a mistake because he should have gotten Horace right then. Vince is going to come out. He's going to get on the apron. Bryan Adams and the referee are going to get distracted by Vincent. Vincent's going to slide a slapjack in, which is going to give Horace the advantage to nail Bryan Adams in the head. He gets the win. I gave it 2 stars. I guess it was fine, but I probably should have even given it a 1 3/4, which I debated, and it looks like that's exactly what you gave it.
Absolutely. They did what they could. But it's a 1 3/4 match. Not very inspiring. Ending is all sorts of dumb and confusing. I don't understand what Vincent gets out of this by helping Horace win. Everybody is telling everybody that
this
they're
whole
in charge.
Vince thing is so weird with him like interfering in these matches.
Yeah, like what's he? We just watched the video package of basically Vincent getting in Horace's face saying, I'm in charge. And Horace's like, you need to talk to my uncle because I'm in charge. And then he leaves in a huff. And next thing you know, Vincent's trying to help him win. And then on Monday, he was trying to help Horace win against Stevie Ray, which that I can understand because he lost to Stevie Ray. At least that made sort of sense. This makes no sense. I don't know what Vincent's game here. Either they don't know what they're doing in the writing or Vincent is a genius that we just can't comprehend. I'll go with the latter.
Yeah, well, we can go with that. What I also can't comprehend is why Horace, coming off the big victories, walking back to the locker rooms, and he looks at the camera and yells, "Scallywag!"
The only thing I can think of is he was doing a Make-A-Wish. He was talking to a dying kid with cancer, and he said, "Horace, for your next match, could you please yell Scallywag after your match?" That's the only thing that makes any level of sense. But then that also gets canceled out because I don't know why any kid who's on the Make-A-Wish would be like, "Oh, I'm almost dying. Bring in Horace Hogan."
We then go to a backstage pre-taped interview with Mean Gene and Rick Steiner. They're discussing the hardcore division, which apparently is going to start becoming a thing. And apparently how Rick wants in. Apparently he's supposed to be hardcore. But Fit Finley is going to interrupt this discussion. And Gene says, this is Rick's time, as he hands him the microphone and lets him talk for the next 5 minutes. Fit Finley wants to get in. He starts talking about his upbringing and how, he's, more hardcore than Rick. And the two of them decide they might as well get paid to fight each other. And they're going to do it on Nitro this Monday night. So, sorry, Thunder Buddies, we're not going to get it.
So one weird thing about this. So this is Rick Steiner and Fit Finley, which, by the way, has got to be one of the most awkward, weird, and terrible combinations for a shoot interview in the back. Let's put that. Rick Steiner isn't exactly like booming with charisma, and Fit Finley is Fit fucking Finley, and these guys are gonna like yell at each other. No one's taking turns. They're having like a real argument with each other, and they're talking about who's more hardcore. Neither one of these guys has any pedigree of being hardcore outside of, I mean, God rest his soul, Lee Marshall talking about how Fit Finley would prefer being in a bar brawling, but this would be like if like Kevin Nash and Bam Bam Bigelow are like, I want to get in the cruiserweight division. These two guys don't in any way, shape, or form like hint to me that they're hardcore in any way, shape, or form. But let them be in it. But I think if you're going to talk about the hardcore division, there's dozens of people I would have had Mean Gene talk to than Rick Steiner, and then passerby Fit Finley.
Yeah, fair enough. Mean Gene's then going to be in the ring. He's calling out Hollywood Hogan. Hogan's going to get in the ring. He's going to say after the pay-per-view and the tag match on Monday night, he ain't taking no more crap. He says Kurt Hennig, has the audacity to accept a wrestling match against me. He's going to show everyone the power of the Wolfpack and the power of the Pythons. Gene is going to specify and actually call him Hollywood Hulk Hogan, so we're getting the Hulkster back a little bit here. And Hogan's promo was even slightly face here, which we kind of discussed. They might be switching a little bit. He's still kind of a heel, but he's you definitely could tell that he's supposed to be less of the just rip on the fans and kind of heel. He's just the cool heel at this point. And Hogan, of course, since he's wrestling Kurt in the main event, he does call himself the perfect wrestler. Wink, wink, as we end that promo.
The thing I noticed in this is that once again we talked about how this tone has changed again, with Flair now going heel and now Hogan being a cool heel. But the thing I really noticed that after Hogan came back and the finger poke of doom happened, and now he's got the belt with the red spray paint, he has completely moved away from the power of the Pythons and pointing to his palm and like the power lies here, brother. Everybody in here who worships the ground that Hollywood steps on. Well, not even just the red and yellow, the Hollywood shit. When he would say like everyone here worships the ground I walk on, and being very bombastic. Okay. He had that with him too, like being the heel of being how great I am. He went to this like very monotone, conniving kind of like the whole thing he's doing with the white and black. That kind of became his new persona, along with Jenkos and a fucking flannel. But like he was a totally different person from the prayers and the vitamins to the worships the ground Hollywood walks on, and then we had this new Hogan it just seemed like he was very soft spoken. He was very matter of fact. He wasn't bombastic in his interviews. He had those black and white interviews where it looks like he's just scheming all the time and doing shoots on Ric Flair that were very personal, but nothing like brother. Like that's gone. And now all of a sudden I feel like he's now dialing that back in, and it's just such a weird time. It goes right back to me, I think, a screw up at Uncensored, which now becomes, well, Hogan, I guess it's hard for people to boo Ric Flair and boo you as well. It's in the world of wrestling, if you're supposed to be the heel and Flair's supposed to be the face, we need someone to be cheered for, because now nobody likes the way Flair won the title, regardless of who he was fighting. And here's the thing about Hogan. You can hate him all you want. He's always going to have some people that are always going to cheer for that guy. Like just the mystique of Hogan, the fact that he was going to main event and be on the show, he got popped because I don't think anybody who got tickets to Thunder, they were looking for Meng versus Bam Bam, not the fact that we're going to see Mr. Perfect fight Hogan in the main event, which was, we could talk about whatever we want about how good the match was, but I think the idea that him being there was more than enough.
Oh, absolutely. I won't disagree with that. That said, Meng and Bam Bam are up next. First match of the United States Championship Tournament. Commentary team basically says that they have no details yet about the tournament. They're even questioning maybe it's going to be double elimination like the last one. I fucking hope it isn't. And, of course, Meng's going to win with the Tongan Death Grip. I gave the match a star and 3/4. It wasn't a very good match. And I am stunned that Meng won this match. I mean, Bam Bam came in feuding with Goldberg, and now he's jobbing to Meng.
Hey, put him in the wrath pile. I gave it a star and 3/4 as well. It was basically just two guys who don't sell. No selling. I don't think any of them tried to pin the other once. Just a lot of like clubs to the back, a lot of corner offense, splashes in the corner, slaps and chops, stiff work, but not good stiff work. And then I felt like the Tongan Death Grip, I like it better when the Tongan Death Grip feels like it comes out of nowhere, but he choreographed the motherfuck out of the Tongan Death Grip to the point where I was like, there's no way that Bam Bam's going to get hit by this, right? And then I felt like he didn't know how to even take it because he got hit with the Tongan Death Grip and just falls over like he got, renegade throat punched, and he just went down. And I understand he went down, he's going to get pinned, but usually, the Tongan Death Grip is a grip, not a strike to the goddamn throat. I digress. It was a really, really awkward match, and I agree. I don't think Meng or Bam Bam has legs to go that much further in this tournament, but I at least thought Bam Bam was going to get out of round one.
Yeah, absolutely. We then move to our main event. It's Henning. It's Hogan. We got about 6 minutes or so for the match. We get classic Hogan in this match. He's raking backs. And the match it's not bad early on until Horace fucking Hogan comes out. He starts watching. Hogan's going to start, whipping and strangling Henning with his weightlifting belt, which apparently is totally okay to do.
It's Mickey J. It's allowed.
Henning's going to hit the Henningplex, but it's broken up at a 2 count thanks to Horace. This is going to lead to Hogan hulking up. The crowd is kind of into it. It's very mixed here, whether they want to cheer or hate Hogan. Hogan's going to throw him off the ropes. I assumed the big boot was coming, but instead they crisscross, and then Horace goes to trip Henning, but misses tripping him. So then Hogan just body slams Henning and hits the leg drop and gets the clean win here. I gave it 2 stars. I thought it was an okay match until like a really fucking screwy finish.
And that's why I couldn't give it 2 stars. I gave it a star and 3/4. I feel like you at least need to have a finish that makes sense. I enjoyed seeing Hogan in the ring. But as soon as Horace was added to the match, it just got all sorts of convoluted. I think I've said the word convoluted like 8 times on this goddamn show, and I'm sorry.
That's WCW for you.
Yeah, but it didn't need to happen. Like, if I were to book this, Hogan would just go over on Henning. No interference, no bullshit. Henning hits the Henningplex. Hogan just kicks out of it, hulks up, and just does his 3 punches, big boot, leg drop. Everyone goes home happy. This whole idea of the tripping him up, because I think what was supposed to happen was that Hogan or Horace, they're both Hogans apparently. Horace was supposed to like trip Henning. He falls to the ground on his back, and then Hogan just hits the leg drop.
That was my guess too. Yeah,
but because it was so shitty that Hogan improvised, and it was okay, it was fine. But I mean, it was clear there was a screw up of some sorts. But you didn't need all that. There were too many moving parts that you could easily screw up. You have Horace Hogan, who is almost guaranteed going to screw up his spot, and he did. And basically, Hollywood had to figure a way to end the match in a pretty awkward way. So I couldn't give it 2 stars. To me, this was probably a 2-star match if done correctly. So yeah, I couldn't get it out of the 1-star range.
That said, that is our Thunder. What did you think about the show overall?
Well, we had a really, really good match with Hoovy and Ray. So I'm not going to take that away. We had, I think, 7 matches, which is more than 5 from last week. The matches themselves were met okay. I think most of them hung out between that star and 3/4 and 2 1/4. So I guess we would say overall about a 2-star if you were to take away the Hoovy Ray match. I would say, yeah, everything kind of like lingered around that 2-star area. I will say that the show felt more like a whole show. We've gone somewhere. Oh my God, there's 11 matches, no promos, no interviews, no recaps. It's just really crazy wrestling heavy. Then you got the ones where it's like 5 matches, all promos, Nitro recaps, just completely to the other side. This felt like a healthy balance of everything. We had 7 matches, a lot of recap, a lot of interviews. So I felt like everything that we would expect from a live show we got. I thought it was paced correctly. I think we had a couple weird commercial breaks that they probably just really have no real way of controlling. But I felt everything was paced pretty well. Plus, we also had Fit Finley and Rick Steiner with a mic, which is, like I said before, probably one of the most awkward and mishmash charisma abortions I've seen so far. That it was so bad that it was actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I kind of enjoyed it because, like you said, it felt like we were watching a wrestling show, right? We had Hogan and Flair on the show. We had Gene here interviewing and doing backstage promos. And the matches felt like a lot of the matches we'd see on, Nitro. Great cruiserweight matches. You have some mediocre matches in there. The only thing that doesn't make any sense is the Kenny Kaos and... I'm already forgetting who he opened up against in the opening match. Bobby Duncan Jr. Yeah, so like that match felt weird as an opening, but other than that, like I thought we had a lot of a little bit of everything kind of mixed in there. We had a start of a United States tournament, which I don't care about, but they have it there. You had the black and white storyline, which again I don't have, but they're putting it on there. And I mean, overall, this is one of the better Thunders we could say where we had solid matches or worthwhile matches, promos, storylines, interviews, a mix of everything. It felt like a 2-hour Nitro. This is how Thunder, if they're doing Thunder correctly, if they want to model Thunder like Nitro, this show is a good way to do that. Is a good formula for that. So while it wasn't like my favorite, I thought it was a pretty good show. I'm going to be honest. I enjoyed this Thunder. That said, did you enjoy this Thunder? Did you not? Let us know. Of course, you can always reach out to us on social media at Thundercraps on Twitter. We're on Facebook. And then, as always, go subscribe. Leave us a review on your podcast listening device if you haven't done that yet. And you can always go to thundercraps.com to listen to all 55 episodes we have out there. And then that said, go check out Thunder 56. It's March 25th, 1999. It's probably going to be pre-taped in Louisville. And if we're going to get Kenny Kaos and Bobby Duncan Jr. on the live show, I can only wait to see who's going to be on the pre-tape show next week. For Kyle Hogan, I am Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
We are QVCingly out of time. See ya.